Great. Well, thanks for joining us, and thanks to Culture for the invitation to be with you today. What I'd like to do today is give a few small pointers, maybe tips, on how to use our focloir and changlan.ie websites. I'm sure some of the things I'll go through today, many people will know already, but hopefully by about half one or a quarter to two, you'll have picked up something that will be of use. I'll give a bit of a background first, maybe on who we are and what we do. As Darren said, I work with the lexicography department in Forest na Gaeilge, and when Forest na Gaeilge was first founded in the late 90s, the development of terminology and dictionaries was placed as one of its primary functions in its when it was founded. And at that time, the people on the board and the people who were working in First Nagoya saw the great need for new lexicographic resources. And the first of those resources, or the most urgent of those resources at the time, was seen to be a new English-Irish dictionary. You'll all be familiar with the Dictionaries dictionary, and that was published in 1959. And then the O'Donnell Irish to English Dictionary was published in 1977. And then on Focloir Beag, the small monolingual Irish dictionary, was published in 1992. So there was essentially, between 1959 and 1999, there was a huge gap there where there was no updated or new English Irish dictionary published, and then, as I said, from 77 to 99 as well. So basically the area of lexicography in Irish had been neglected, I suppose is fair to say, and there was an urgent need for new resources and updated resources. And as I said, the first and the most important one that was seen at the end of the 90s was a new English-Irish dictionary. So the writing and the planning and the writing began in about 2000 for that project. And it was a huge project at the time. It was a 6.2 million euro budget. And the result of that project, I suppose, was the publishing of the focloir.ie website. That was first published online in 2013, in January 2013. The first tranche of entries was published, and every 6 months between January 2013 and January 2017, further and more entries were added to the dictionary until it reached its completion. In the meantime, an app was also published, and along with that, kind of as a surprise to everyone, in October 2013, the changlan.ie website was also published, and that, interestingly, was never part of the plans. What was the plan was, as I said, was the new English-Irish dictionary, but during the project, the team digitized the O'Donnell and the Dictionaries dictionaries, and were using them just with a basic Control F search in Notepad. They were very rudimentary versions of the dictionaries, but it was seen at the time, and it was recognized how valuable the resources could be if they could be published online with a proper search algorithm. And it was also, I suppose, considered that the public would show great interest in those dictionaries as well. And so it has proved. Both the Focloir and changlan.ie websites get over 2 million users per year, with about 20% or 15 to 20% of those users in the US. So there's a massive demand, I suppose an unprecedented demand for both websites. That's a great source of encouragement for us as well and what we're doing. But so that's the background. We're also working on two new dictionaries. As I said, the focloir.ie website was finished in 2017. We immediately turned to printing that dictionary, or printing an abridged version of that dictionary when that went online, and that came out in 2020. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the massive red concise English-Irish dictionary, as we call it, which is probably the least concise of all the concises ever published. But that was published in 2020 and reprinted then in 2021 as well. So when those projects finally came to an end, we turned our attention to a new Irish English dictionary, which would be a successor to the O'Donnell dictionary. And I suppose the most exciting project that we have at the moment is the new monolingual Irish dictionary, and I'll talk a bit about those later on. But first, I'd like to take a look at the focloir.ie and changlan.ie websites and maybe give a couple of, as I said, a couple of tips, a couple of hints on how to use them and how to get the most out of them. So if we go on to the first slide, we'll have a look that all the entries on both focloir and changlan are laid out in a similar fashion. We were keen to keep the dictionaries in some way parallel so that users would be familiar. If they were familiar with one, they'd be familiar with the other. So the way the entries and the way the pages are laid out is that you have the main entry. So we've a very simple entry here, lab. And the way this works is you've the primary entry at the top of the page, and that's what we consider. If someone searches for LAB, we consider that the first thing or the most likely thing they want is either the Irish for a laboratory or the Irish for the dog. And that's then presented at the top of the page. As I say, the primary entry. You'll get a little hint that kind of separates which sense you're looking for. So scientific, informal, laboratory, or informal dog. So you know that if you are looking to buy a dog, that you shouldn't ask for a Saherlin, or if you're looking for the lab in a university, that you shouldn't go around looking for a Labrador. Then you get any related entries. So that's any entry in which the word lab appears in the name of the entry. So in this case, we only have one, that's language lab. And then I suppose the place where a lot of people will find the severus or the richness of the language and the entries. And this is one of the great benefits of publishing online, is you'll get every single other instance of the word lab or derived versions of the word lab. So you'll see labs here, every other single instance of lab right down throughout the dictionary. So I suppose it's fair to say that it would never occur to somebody to go to the entry closet to find an example of how to use the word lab in a sentence. And if you're to do that in a book, the only way to do that in a book would be to know the book by heart from cover to cover. So again, go up, engine room, closet, and chemistry. You probably never think to look in those entries in the dictionary to find examples of how to use the word lab. So it's always worth scrolling down. If you don't find a satisfactory answer to your question, or if you don't really understand how to use a word in context from just the base entry, it's always worth scrolling down to have a look at what else is thrown up. So we'll have a look then at a couple of entries on the website. So as I said, lab is quite a short entry. There's only two senses in the entry, so they're presented in a fairly simple fashion. But if we look at something maybe a bit bigger like plant, in plant we have 16 senses. So first of all, the thing you'll notice is that there's a small box at the top that gives a kind of an outline of the entry. And each one of these, we call them ed meanings, but they're basically they're ways to disambiguate senses from each other. So it's kind of a quick hint on what senses we have in the dictionary. So basically, if you come looking for plant and you're wondering about the Irish for plant, as in a spy, you can come to this box at the beginning and just click on spy, and it'll jump down to that sense. So we see here spy, mole, spire. And same thing for the verbs. If you're wondering what the Irish is to plant, again, in terms of to infiltrate as a spy, you can just click on that and it'll jump all the way down. The authorities planted spies amongst the staff. So it's worth, if there are these boxes at the beginning, you can look through them, you can click, but obviously you can scroll down through the entry as well. We have a lot of these little labels here. So we see in the case of plant, living thing, if you click on this, we get botany and hort for horticulture. It's again just ways we have of separating the senses from each other and making them a bit clearer to users, so that somebody doesn't go and try and buy a monarcha in a shop when they're looking for a plant that you sow. We'll have a look then at the grammar files. So I'm sure people are very familiar with the grammar files on the changlan.ie website, and we will have a look at those shortly. But we also have them on the focloir.ie website, and we probably should do a better job of spreading the word about that. But anytime we see mask 4, fem 5, mask 1, mask 2, anytime you see them, they're often hyperlinks, and you can click on them. So if you want to know what the genitive case of plaunda is, you'll see you can click on that. A little small box will pop up, and I hope that you can see that now as I share my screen. It'll tell you it's a noun, it's masculine, it's in the fourth declension, and then it'll give you every form of it with and without the definite article. So plaunda, an plaunda, and then in the tishil ginadach, the genitive case, plaunda, an flaunda. It's probably a bit more interesting in terms of verbs. So you can come down to a verb here and say click on verb, and you'll get every tense, past, present, future, conditional, every tense in case. So if you're wondering what the conditional tense of queer is in third person plural, you can come down and see chuirhadíist. Again, singular, plural, and passive. And it's worth saying also, I should have said this at the beginning, you see here we've English and Irish, so the interface is available in both English and Irish. So if you click on Gaeilge here, it'll change the interface, and you can, if you click on verb with queer, these labels turn to Irish. So some people, they learn Irish maybe through Irish, a lot of people do, and will be more familiar with these terms, mo canílach, rather than conditional tense. So and you can just jump between the two, English and Irish, up at the top. That's that bar, that red bar is always at the top of the page, so you can always scroll up, and you won't lose your place in the dictionary. You can just scroll back down to where you are and click again. So I'll leave it on English for today. So that's the grammar files. We have hundreds of thousands of grammar files for not only for nouns and verbs, but we also have for adjectives as well. So if you want to say, if you go to nice and you're wondering, is it níos jasa, níos cad? So níos deishe, is deishe. So you have the comparative and superlative forms available there as well. Just click on adj in this case, verb mask. So generally there are some cases in which we don't have the grammar files, but generally we do have a grammar file for all the base translations on the website. As well as that, we have anywhere you see this small icon with C, M, and U, you can click on them to hear the pronunciations in the different dialects. So in the three major dialects, that's Connacht, Munster, and Ulster. So we'll take Monarcha in this case.
Monarchan. Monarcha. Monarcha.
It's quite interesting. A lot of teachers like to use that function and kind of create lessons around using that function and showing students how different the dialects sound in certain words. So the example we often use is dog or madra.
Mada.
Mada.
Madara.
Madara.
Madu.
Madu. So it can be quite interesting to just jump around the website and have a look. So as I said, we then show the related entries. So in the case of lab, we just had language lab, but in the case of plant, we have quite a lot more, and you can just jump between you get a new dot basically for every group of new entries that you have. So if we were to put in make, with 3 dots. And it's not just the word make, but it's derivatives of the word make as well. So you see making and made here. And all of those are hyperlinks as well. So you have make, making, made. And in the case of plant, we'll see that we had planting and planted as well. So planted, planting, gas plant. And each one of those is a hyperlink. So you can just jump to that, click on it, and jump straight to it. As I said, it's always important to scroll down then as well to see more results and more examples of how the words are used in context. That this is one of the most frequently received pieces of feedback that we get is how valuable users find the extras, the phrases and examples in other entries at the bottom. So it's always worth scrolling down and having a look. You'll often find a bit more Severus, as I said, a bit more richness down in these additional examples. We'll have a look then at the advanced search. Not many people, according to the analysis we do on user behavior on the website, not many people use this, but some people use it to a very effective degree in research or whatever they're looking for. So the advanced search, it's always beneath the search bar. You just click here and it'll bring you in. And a couple of interesting things you can do. So you can search by subject. I showed you the botany and horticulture labels that we looked at there in terms of plant, but you can search by label. So we can actually separate out or filter out any entry that has a history label in the entry. So you just click history under subject and search. And you see the website just chews away at it for a couple of seconds. And then you can click through and see all the entries that we have that have a history label somewhere in the entry, it can be quite interesting. So you can see a couple of battles, Berlin Wall, Bloody Sunday. So a lot of historical entries, and there's quite a lot of different labels right throughout. So we'll have a look at sport there and see what comes up in sport. So you can see All Ireland, wrestling, airball, airshot. So that's by subject. You can also search by style. So we have style labels in a lot of our entries. So you can search for all the vulgar terms. Now we won't do that today, but you can search for all the technical terms, for example. And you can flick down through. So an interesting one is say avian flu. So flu na nain is what we would call the familiar term, or the term that people would use in ordinary everyday speech. But then flu éanúil is more technical term, which might be used in legislation or something like that. So again, you can search by style, and you can also combine searches. So you can search anthropological terms that are labeled technical. Now I don't know. Yeah, there's nothing came up for us there. Perhaps in art we might get some technical. So we get one technical term in art, which is figure drawing. So we can see líneacht de Réine would be your more familiar, but líneacht Réineach and líneacht Fíriche, with two technical terms in that case. So again, it can be an interesting pastime for the anoraks to go down through, have a look at the different styles, the way we've words labeled, and the different subjects as well. So they're the main things on the focloir.ie website. I should say as well that on the homepage we have a link to our YouTube channel, and it's worth having a look at that. Some of the things I've touched on today and will touch on later on, we have short videos both in English and in Irish to show people how to use the different functions on the website. As well as that, something that's quite interesting, we have our link to our book, and just a bit of information and a few links. Then if you click on buy the book, you can figure out where to buy it. But also we have an education tab, and it's worth having a look at that. So what we've done here is we've taken all the secondary material from the Concise English Irish Dictionary and made it available free of charge here on the website. So we've PDFs in Irish and in English of a couple of essays that we have in the book, and then the different tables and grammar information that we have as well. So they're all available free of charge. So if you want to, say, take personal pronouns in English, you can click on that and it'll open up the PDF, and that can be printed. It can be used in classrooms or whatever. So they are available, as I say, in the book, but they're also available on the website under the education tab. We have obviously frequently asked questions, and for more information on the website that I'll let people have a look at in their own time. So we'll have a quick look at Chonglan now. And Changlan is laid out in a similar fashion. So we'll take skull to begin with. And that's quite a simple search. So we can see that we have the entry as it is in the O'Donnell dictionary. And then we have any other example of skull anywhere else throughout the dictionary. And there's a huge amount of entries that contain the word skull. And again, a huge amount of Severus there at the bottom of the entry. With 5 tabs on the website, anytime a tab is lit up, it tells you that you'll find information there. So the word skull appears in the O'Donnell dictionary, it appears in on focloir.ie, and it also appears in the Duvaldre dictionary as a translation. And then we obviously have our grammar file and our pronunciation file for the word skull as well.
Skull. Skull. Skull.
Related matches under each of those tabs. If a tab is grayed out, it means we don't have anything for it. So we'll take school in this case. So obviously school appears in the O'Donnell dictionary. It's a translation in a huge amount of entries. School is an entry of itself in the English-Irish dictionary, of course, but school wouldn't appear on focloir.ie. That's a monolingual Irish dictionary, so the word school wouldn't have any business in a dictionary like that. And of course, there's no grammar file for the word school, and there's no pronunciation file for the word school, because I suppose it's not our job to teach people how to say the word school. So as I say, anywhere these tabs are lit up, it means we have information. So if we try Ardskull, we have the word Ardskull appears in 4 of the 5 databases. We don't have a pronunciation file for Ardskull. So we'll have a look then at the grammar files. So as I say, they're laid out in a similar fashion to the grammar files on the focloir.ie website. But I suppose something extra we have here is we have the Dree Grammar-D, or the grammar wizard. So you can just click on that and it'll drop down a box here. And we'll take skull on its own, which is a bit simpler. And we'll add an adjective, ma. And one of the great things about Irish grammar is that it's very regular. And when Irish grammar is very regular, it means we can teach it to a computer, basically. And what we've done here, or what Michael Mikura, who's our wizard, what he's done here is he has taken all of our grammar files and taught the computer how to make them interact with each other in a grammatical way. So in skull and ma, we then can teach the computer how to put those 2 words together in a grammatically correct way. So on skull va in the tishel animnach, or the nominative case, and niscolle mahe in the genitive, or the tishel ginidach, and then in the plural as well. We've a good few more patterns here as well, so we can add a preposition, say. So if we want to say the, and we'll put in fuinog, something begins with an F in this case. So the and fuinog and more, maybe. So in this case, you can see the cogs are turning, and in this case, you'll see that it's a D hyphen that comes before an F. So de inog vor, dun inog vor, dinog amora, I was done a fuinog amora. Again, these rules are very regular and can be relied on, I suppose, if you teach them to a computer. We'll take a possessive. So mo and coat, quota. So machota, and then in plural, machoti. But when the emphatic suffix on irvir hreshe, if you click on this, we get machotasa and duchotasa. So that just adds on the emphatic suffix at the end, and that box can be ticked and unticked, whatever way you want. And that can be done right down throughout. So you can, the computer doesn't care if what you're putting in doesn't make sense. It'll put any two words together as long as we have a grammar file for them. It'll put them together. So arnjarche, arnjarkig in the Epistol Gindwech. So that's quite powerful, and it's very useful, and it's always worth checking. If you are writing in Irish, or if you're studying in Irish, it's worth checking the grammar wizard. We intend to add a lot more to that. There are other rules that we don't yet have covered, so I encourage people to use that tool, but also to keep an eye out. We will put a news box on the website whenever we do add something else to it. The sound files are the same as we just looked at. So if we have a look at Madra again, Ulster, Connacht, and Munster. I don't think there's any case in which we only have one or two. If we have a sound file, we have it across the three dialects. So in every case, there should be three sound files right down throughout. So in Ulster, Connacht, and Munster. A new feature that we're working on at the moment. So as you'd see, generally what we have here are the base translations from the focloir.ie website. So there are cases, and this is some very valuable feedback we got from users, was that it'd be great to do some of the verbs that, at the moment we only have. So if we take Dane, we only have Dane. We don't have the different forms or the different, saying the Mo Cnealach or the Aim Shachatya. We don't have those on the website at the moment, and they are quite common parts of speech. So that's something we've worked on, and we have recorded tens of thousands of new sound files that we hope to add to the website before the end of the year. So we just have a look on our testing site. So we'll see in this case, if you come to the grammar tab, that we will have every gach aimsir agus gach mo, so every tense and every. So we'll have a look at the aimsir ganach hatch, say the past habitual, and we'll have three sound files for each one. So
Derimish.
Derimish.
Derhamish.
Dirty.
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 Again, these have all been done by native Irish speakers from the three main dialects. So that is hopefully coming before the end of the year.
Dortma.
Dort.
Dortma.
So I'd encourage people to keep an eye out for that as well, that we'll have it in the positive and the negative.
Nierortma.
Ni dort.
Ni Dortma.
You can see that there are quite significant differences between the dialects, especially in case of the verbs. So keep an eye out for that. Then we're nearly at the end now, so I'll just show one more quick thing that we don't do a very good job of advertising. So on the tuairisc.ie website, our developers worked with their developers to develop a small function, but quite a valuable and useful resource on the website, that if you come up to the top left hand corner, you'll see the word focloir.ie. We call this tool on focloir.ie, and it can actually be embedded in any website. But Tuairisc have their own version of it on their website. So if you click on this word, you'll see that a small line comes up underneath it. And what that does is it changes every single word on the page into a hyperlink that'll bring you to the Teanglan.ie website without leaving Tuairisc. So say, for example, you're reading this article on the local elections and you don't understand what the word Síocháin means. If you click focloir.ie and the line comes up underneath it, you can then click on Síocháin and a small window will appear on the website without having to leave it, with a link to the word Síocháin in the O'Donnell dictionary, and you can see that, well, that means seat, and you can just click back out of it and continue reading. So that works on every single word. I don't understand the word dúigilt. What does it mean? Okay, I go in and I can see that it's the verbal noun of dúigilt, but it also means double. So you can click back out and continue. And you can then turn off that function by clicking on focloir.ie again, and the line will go and these words aren't links anymore. So it's worth keeping an eye out for. And it is available that if you have a blog or if you're a developer yourself, you can add that to your own website through, if you just come into the About on the changlan.ie website and go into plugins and widgets, there's information on how to add that to your own website as well. So that's worth having a look at. That's the main things I have to cover in terms of the two websites. So I'll just give a small bit of information now on what we're actually working on at the moment. So the current project that Forest na Gaeilge is working on at the moment, we're writing two new dictionaries from scratch. A new Irish English dictionary, which we would see as a successor to the O'Donnell dictionary, and a monolingual Irish dictionary, a major monolingual Irish dictionary, and that would be the first of its kind. I mentioned on Focloir Beag earlier, and Focloir Beag is a brilliant dictionary and a brilliant resource, but it is quite small. The clue is in the name. It is a Focloir Beag. So we're working on a new Irish English dictionary and a monolingual Irish dictionary with 80,000 senses each. So what does that mean? What is a sense? Well, there's 80,000 senses in the concise English Irish dictionary. That'll give people an idea on how big these two new dictionaries will be. So if you take, for example, the concise English Irish dictionary, there's 80,000 senses, give or take, in that, and both of these two new dictionaries will have 80,000 senses each. And I'll give you a small look at what the entries could or will look like. So in a monolingual Irish dictionary, you've overspatia. You'll get a definition. So a monolingual dictionary, it's basically like, people are very familiar with the Collins dictionary or the Oxford or the Macmillan. So in this case, we're going to have our own one in Irish. So a word in Irish that's explained in Irish. So it's unanda overspatia, agus an rudí spéisi go tunta, agus a Danny and Shelatva, kind fuha, no the Quidalma a Cahavlo. And a couple of examples then on how that word or how that phrase is used in context. In the bilingual dictionary then, overspatia, you get a translation. So overspatia, that's your interest. Dirian and Corsair overspation and Alti, the course focuses on pupils' interests. So you'll get in the case of the bilingual dictionary, you get translations. You'll get the word in Irish and then the word in English, or the phrase in Irish and then the phrase in English. And in Brege, so again, you get your definition in Irish for both of the senses, but in the bilingual dictionary, you get the translation for the word. So a false name, an assumed name, or an alias, or a pseudonym in the case of, say, an artist. Corpaglische and chud adalarnach daglis mar min pobla lin sharmnish no service or corpaglische nave. So there's going to be two separate dictionaries, but we'll have them both on the focloir.ie website. So the way we envisage this at the moment is that focloir.ie will be similar to changlan.ie, and that we'll have a couple of different tabs depending on what you want. So we'll have the English Irish dictionary, the Irish English dictionary, and the monolingual all on the one website, all accessible through one search, and you'll be able to jump from tab to tab. So that's import all to import. And finally then, our vision for lexicography is that we'll have an integrated suite of contemporary dictionaries at focloir.ie, plus changlan.ie, plus the National Terminology Database, that's terma.ie, all available free of charge online. So some people, when they hear about us working on new dictionaries, new Irish English and Irish, they worry about the O'Donnell dictionary and on Focloir Beag, but those dictionaries will always be there. We don't intend on getting rid of them or replacing them. They're brilliant dictionaries. They're Bibles to us when we do our work, and they'll always be there at the changlan.ie website. We'll just have a bigger and better and bolder version of the focloir.ie website by the year 2027. And again, of course, the terminology database at terma.ie, and all available free of charge online. Some people ask which website is best to use, Focloir or Changlan, and there's no simple answer to that. The answer is both. It depends on what you need and it depends on what you want. Obviously, focloir.ie is more contemporary reflection of how the language is spoken and used in this day and age. So if someone is, say, writing something contemporary, something modern, maybe folklore is a better option, but it is, say when I work or when anyone in our office works, they have the two dictionaries or the two websites open on separate tabs, and they're jumping from one to the other and back all day long. So using both is the best approach, I suppose. And then obviously maybe for sound files or grammar files, the Chandlin website is probably a quicker way of accessing those. And then of course we'll have the new sound files we're very excited about for the verbs before the end of the year as well. So that's about all I have to say. Thanks very much for listening, and I'd be delighted to answer a few questions if there are any.
That's great. Gurmil Magat, Cormac, that was fascinating, and I've actually learned a few things that I didn't know before, so that's good. If anyone has any questions for Cormac, you can pop them into the chat box, or you can put up your hand. And so we have, yeah. Go ahead. Farrell J, I think you're unmuted there. Okay. I just had just a couple of questions for you, Cormac, just while we're here. One is, if there's a word that's not in any of the dictionaries, how does a word actually get proposed, or if a new technical term, how does that process work?
It's a great question, yes, and that was a very topical question, say at the beginning of the pandemic. I know people don't like talking about the pandemic, but it was a very interesting time from a linguistic point of view. And the short answer is that the Terminology Committee are responsible for new terms that come into the language. So they're a group of volunteers who meet once a month, the first Monday of every month, and they discuss new terms. But the public can recommend terms, and they can also request terms. So if you're working on something, say if you're a civil engineer and you're working on something and you don't have a word to describe what you're doing, you can actually make an application to the Cuiste Termíochta, the Terminology Committee, to review a term or to make a suggestion for you. So termi@forestnaguega.ie is the email address, and anyone is welcome to email them, and they will consider your term and they will make a recommendation based on, you can recommend it yourself. If you have something that you think is suitable, you can actually recommend it. But if you don't have an idea, you can just ask them to, well, please. So say again, to come back to the pandemic, when social distancing and coronavirus and all those words were beginning to be used, some people requested those from Terminology Committee. But what they do try to do, and what we try to do with the dictionary as well, is we try to reflect what the public is actually using. So it's no use me or our team recommending something when the public is already using something. So if we have evidence that the public is using a word in Irish, that's what we'll generally go with, even if we don't like it, because what we try to do, and what lexicography and dictionaries in general try to do, is reflect the language as it is spoken. That's more of a descriptive approach rather than try to tell people what they should say, which would be a prescriptive approach. So dictionaries in general have kind of moved away from that prescriptive approach towards descriptivism in recent years. You'll see that with a lot of the English dictionaries as well, that they take in words and they take in patterns that often horrify people, and people say, well, that shouldn't be in the dictionary, that's wrong, or that's not how my mother used to say it. But generally what dictionaries now say is, well, that's what people say, and it's our job to explain it, and that's kind of the approach we take. Now there's always a line. We won't have Tasha Far in the dictionary anytime soon,
Okay.
but there is, generally we try to reflect how the language community speak in a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and actually, just an interesting question came in there, Cormac, just about the emphatic suffix when when you should use Makotasa versus Makota, and I suppose this is one of the differences between Irish and English, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's often something that learners can struggle with. Is that in English you emphasize the word. You say, well, that's my computer. It's not yours. It's my computer. But in Irish, the emphasis, the noun itself actually changes its form. So shin marivrisha. So instead, you wouldn't emphasize the word mo. Now you often hear it especially in Gael shin mochota. That children would say to each other. They might argue over something, but mochotasa, shin mochotasa, is the way that's done in Irish, and that's, I suppose, and that's quite a. We're lucky, and that's in the sense that that's a regular change to the word or to the pattern, and that's why we could add it to the Drí Grammaí, so that people, as I showed, can just click on that little box and the emphatic suffix will come up. But yeah, to answer Farrell J's question, that yeah, exactly as they said themselves, is my coat is mochotasa, rather than mochota.
Okay. And Cormac, just one other question came through, that one of the participants is blind and wants to talk to someone, just I suppose in terms of technology. Is there an email address that person?
Yeah, that we'd be delighted. Asholas at focloir.ie is where people can get us. We get a huge amount of correspondence from the public, often some brilliant suggestions, and we try to make changes to the website and our resources, and we try to add to it based on what comes in. So yeah, if that person wants to email asholas at focloir.ie, we'll get back to them. Yeah.
Okay. If there are no more questions now, I'll let people get back to their lunchtime and maybe grab something to eat before 2. Here's one other. Is there any government departments using the embedded dictionaries?
That's a good question, and that's a question I don't have the answer to. Those embedded dictionaries are completely free of charge, open source, and sometimes we just come across them by accident. We don't need anyone to contact us if they use them. So I haven't a clue, Paul, to answer your question.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Thanks everyone, and gur míle magat to Cormac.
Gur magat in, agus gur mag gachtainna a drastal.
Okay. Slán go fáil mar sin.